If someone had told me 2 years ago that the woman I cried with, prayed for, and practically coached through her marriage crisis would be the reason my own marriage ended, I would have laughed. Because that woman was Jenna, my best friend since college, the one who stayed up with me after my miscarriage, the one who helped me pick out my wedding dress, the one who knew everything about me and my marriage. Turns out, that made things a whole lot easier for her when she decided to start sleeping with my husband. Jenna and Eric had been going through a rough patch for a while. He worked long hours, she felt invisible, and their communication had pretty much dried up. She would text me late at night, crying, asking if I thought he was cheating, asking how I kept things alive with Connor, my husband. I'd always reassure her. Every marriage has phases, Jen. You've just got to keep showing up. And I believed that. I really did. When she told me she was thinking of leaving him, I told her to wait. I offered to watch their kids so they could go to therapy. I even helped her write out a letter to him, a raw, vulnerable one, to try and start the healing process. I was invested in their marriage, like it was my own. I just didn't realize how close to home that would eventually hit. Looking back, there were signs, little things that I brushed off, like how Jenna started asking a lot of questions about Connor. How does he handle stress? Is he this calm all the time? You're so lucky. Connor actually talks to you. Does Connor ever get annoyed when you vent? Eric just shuts down. At first, I took it as admiration, maybe even hope, like she was using us as a model to work toward. I didn't feel threatened. I felt flattered. I didn't know she was studying him. The first real crack came one night after dinner at our place. Jenna came over for wine and venting. Connor had made his usual grilled salmon and set the table like he always does when we have company. She complimented the meal 3 times and insisted on helping him with dishes after I went to change into sweats. I remember walking back into the kitchen and pausing. They were laughing. Nothing inappropriate, just casual, friendly laughter. But something in Jenna's body language set off a tiny alarm in the back of my mind. The way she leaned in, touched his forearm lightly while drying a plate. I shook it off. She's your best friend. You're being paranoid. Except I wasn't. A few weeks later, Jenna stopped talking about Eric. Like, completely. When I asked how things were going, she'd shrug and say, "Same old, but I'm handling it better now, trying to focus on myself." I didn't push. I figured she was emotionally tapped out. Plus, I had my own stress going on. My mom had just had surgery, and Connor had picked up extra shifts to help cover some costs. He was always tired, distant even. But I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just life. One night, Jenna showed up unannounced with a bottle of wine, said she needed to be anywhere but home. Connor wasn't home yet. He'd texted saying he'd be late after a work dinner. She asked if she could crash on our couch. I said yes. Of course I did. She was my friend. That was the night it happened. And no, I didn't catch them in the act. It wasn't that kind of story. It was worse. I found her phone, or rather, it fell out of her purse the next morning, and when I picked it up to hand it back, the screen lit up. A message preview. From Connor. "Last night was stupid. We can't keep doing this." I stood there staring at her phone like it was a grenade I didn't know how to disarm. "Last night was stupid. We can't keep doing this." Sent at 6:42 a.m. from my husband to my best friend. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. The late-night work dinners, her sudden emotional stability, the way she'd stopped talking about her own marriage, like that part of her life had already been resolved, the way Connor had become distant, irritable, tired, but not busy. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room. But instead, I walked to the bathroom, shut the door, and sat on the floor, shaking. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just kept hearing her voice in my head from that night 2 years ago when I broke down after a fight with Connor. "You two are the kind of couple people write about, Don't give up. Keep choosing each other." Turns out, she was choosing him too. I didn't confront her that morning. She woke up late, still on my couch, like she hadn't shattered anything, like she hadn't slept with the man I married under the same roof where we had girls' nights, watched movies, and cried over heartbreaks. She smiled at me as she poured coffee from my pot, and I smiled back, because that's what shock does. It freezes you into politeness. She left around noon, thanking me again for being there. I waited exactly 27 minutes after she pulled out of the driveway before I texted Connor. "Hey, where are you?" He said he was wrapping things up at the office. I replied, "We need to talk, now. Don't go home. Meet me at the park, alone." I don't know why I chose the park. Maybe because it was neutral territory. Maybe because I didn't want to scream at him in our kitchen. Maybe because some part of me knew that once I said it out loud, nothing would ever be the same again. He showed up 20 minutes later, looking tired, unshaven, like he hadn't slept, which, in hindsight, made sense. "Everything okay?" he asked, jogging up to me like we were going to discuss dinner plans. I didn't answer right away. I handed him my phone. I had forwarded the message from Jenna's screen to myself. He stared at it for 5 seconds, then sat down on the bench. Didn't deny it, didn't try to lie, just slumped forward and whispered, "It didn't mean anything. I didn't plan for this." That was his defense. It didn't mean anything. I didn't even recognize my voice when I said, "How long?" He rubbed his face like he wanted to disappear. "A few months?" Months. They'd been lying to my face for months. "I don't love her," he added. "It was just easy. You were so stressed all the time. And she was there. There, in our house, at our table, in our life. And I had invited her in. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood up and said, 'Go home. Pack a bag. You're leaving tonight.'" He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "And don't you dare tell her anything. I'll handle Jenna myself." I called her the next day, calm, steady, dead inside. I told her to meet me at the coffee shop where we used to plan her anniversary surprises. She showed up in heels and makeup like it was a casual brunch, like she didn't think I knew yet, like she hadn't ruined my marriage. I slid her phone across the table. The blood drained from her face. She looked at me, eyes wide. "Wait." "I know," I said. She started crying, not the deep, soul-twisting kind, the performative kind, tears with no weight. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely, and I stood up. "You don't get to make this about you, not this time." And then I walked out. That was the last time I saw her. After I walked out of that cafe, I expected the rage to hit, but it didn't. Not right away. What came first was this numb, hollow silence, like my body was waiting for my heart to catch up, like grief was stuck in traffic. I went home and packed up every framed photo of Connor and me, every anniversary card, every letter, every little reminder of a life that, just 48 hours earlier, I thought was solid. I boxed it all and shoved it into the attic. Then I opened my laptop and did something I never thought I'd do. I started going through old messages, group chats, emails. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but my gut told me something else was off. That if Jenna and Connor had been capable of lying to me for months, then there was more they weren't saying. And I was right. First red flag? Jenna had been helping with my birthday surprise last year. Connor had organized a trip to Asheville, and Jenna offered to coordinate logistics while I worked late shifts. Back then, I thought she was just being thoughtful. But when I opened the flight confirmation email, I noticed something odd. The tickets had been booked using Jenna's rewards account, and the confirmation email had been sent to her first. Weird, right? I remembered asking Connor if he'd booked it all himself, and he said yes, even made some joke about hating airline websites. So why had she been in charge? Unless they weren't planning it for me. They were planning it together. I checked the trip photos next, flipped through the ones I hadn't posted, the candids, the behind the scenes. And there she was. In the background of a mirror selfie Connor had taken of us in the Airbnb kitchen, a suitcase by the front door that wasn't mine. A leather weekend bag I'd seen Jenna carry a dozen times. She had been there. She had gone on my birthday trip. While I was asleep in the master bedroom, she had probably been one room over, pretending to be the supportive friend. I felt physically sick. I called a mutual friend, Melanie, someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, because she'd drifted toward Jenna's circle after college. And that's when the floodgates opened. "Oh my God," she said when I told her what happened. I always had a weird feeling, but I didn't think it was real. She told me Jenna used to brag about how emotionally connected she felt to Connor, that she said I didn't appreciate him, that she understood him in a way I didn't, like she was proud of it, like she thought it was justified. Melanie also said something that stopped me cold. She told me once that if you two ever split, it wouldn't be Connor's fault. It would be yours, because you were always too focused on helping everyone else. Helping everyone else. That was my greatest crime, apparently. I went quiet after that, deleted Jenna's number, blocked her on everything, not out of anger, out of self-preservation. I didn't need an apology. I didn't want a redemption arc. I just wanted distance. Connor stayed in a hotel for a few weeks before finally asking if we could talk. So we did. At a diner, neutral territory again. He looked rough, said all the right things. Therapy, regrets, shame. But the truth was, I didn't believe he regretted what he did. I think he regretted getting caught. I told him I was filing for divorce. He didn't fight it. Maybe he thought we'd reconcile someday. That time would smooth it over. But I didn't want time to fix this. I wanted peace. In the following months, I focused on rebuilding, therapy, running, journaling, late-night drives with sad music and no destination. And slowly, the grief turned into clarity. Jenna didn't ruin my marriage. She just revealed what was already broken. Connor didn't fall for her because she was special. He fell for her because she was available, because he didn't want to do the work anymore. And she didn't mind stepping into a life that I had built. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. No courtroom drama, no drawn-out fight over assets. Just 2 signatures, a short handshake from my lawyer, and a cold breeze outside the courthouse as I walked to my car. Alone. I sat in the driver's seat for a while with the papers in my lap. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry. I was just done. It felt like standing in the ruins of a house you didn't know was burning until the roof caved in. There's no rushing that kind of grief. You don't bounce back, you rebuild. And I was ready to rebuild. But then, just as the smoke started to clear, Jenna came back. 3 weeks after the papers were signed, I got an email. Not a text, not a call. An email. Subject line, "You don't have to hate me." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Every part of me screamed not to, but curiosity won. Maybe some desperate part of me still wanted her to own it, to show an ounce of humility. But that wasn't what I got. Here's what the email said. And yes, I saved it. I know you probably never want to hear from me again. I don't blame you, but I just want you to know that I never meant to hurt you. Things with Connor just happened. We didn't plan it. We connected during a time when both of us felt unseen. I hope someday you'll understand that I'm not the villain here. We were both in pain, and sometimes pain makes people do things they don't fully understand. I miss you. I really do. It wasn't an apology. It was a rebranding. She wanted me to reframe her betrayal as a shared trauma experience. She wanted forgiveness without accountability. She wanted to be comforted by the woman she helped destroy. I didn't respond. Not to her and not to Connor, who tried again a few days later, this time with a short voicemail. I know things can't go back to the way they were, but I still care about you. I hope you're okay. That was his way of releasing himself from guilt without actually taking any of it. Let them live with their rewritten version of the story. I wasn't participating anymore. One night I was scrolling through social media, something I had mostly avoided during the mess, and I came across Jenna's profile. It was private now. New profile picture. Her bio read, "Living my truth, no regrets." I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I just closed the app and finally deleted the backup folder I'd kept with all the evidence, the messages, the photos, the emails. I didn't need proof anymore. The pain had passed its expiration date. The real healing began when I stopped trying to understand why they did what they did. I used to think closure came from getting answers, from hearing, "I'm sorry," in the exact tone you needed. But that's not true. Closure is when you stop waiting for people to fix the hurt they caused. It's when you accept that the apology might never come, and decide to move on anyway. A year later, I bought a small fixer-upper cottage on the outskirts of town. It's nothing fancy, chipped paint, creaky floors, and a backyard that needs a machete just to walk through. But it's mine. I painted the walls myself, grew tomatoes in the garden, started writing again, not just for work, but for me. Things I hadn't done in years because I was too busy playing therapist to everyone else's chaos. I even made new friends, ones who didn't know me as half of Connor and me, ones who didn't know Jenna, ones who didn't need me to fix them. People ask sometimes if I still believe in love. I do, but not the kind you bend yourself out of shape to keep, not the kind you beg to stay. I believe in the kind that meets you where you are, not where you're needed.